Thank you.
Yay!
Hi. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's so good to have you. So,
Thank
Claire,
you.
as we were talking and getting to know you for this summit, you shared with us your journey. And we would love for you to bring in all of the listeners to what brought you to right here, right now, wanting to share everything that you learned through your process and maybe to help everyone who's listening with their process. So tell us a little bit about how you got right here.
Mm, how I got right here. That is a great question. And there are so many ways to answer that. But what I think is most relevant for me right now to respond with is waking up this morning and feeling a little bit in a funk. It was a gray day and I felt some heaviness. I had just come back from a Cub Scouts camping trip with my son. He's 8. And it was completely unplugged, which was a little bit scary at first. No internet, no Wi-Fi, no computers, no electronics. And it was out in nature the whole time. And there was something about it that felt very high vibrational, if you will, or vibrant. And coming back in and plugging back in as well, that just sort of felt heavy to me. And I had a story around how that being here back plugged in is somehow lesser than being unplugged and out in nature. And I took a moment and I was introspecting about that. And I realized what I needed to do was hit the reset button on my mojo. So I took a nap. When I woke up, the sun was shining, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Felt amazing, felt great, and I was excited to have this opportunity with your beautiful souls. Um, Prior to that, I was more nervous and thinking about what I was going to say. And that to me speaks to the nature of what I call the game matrix that we're all playing. So, what brought me here has been quite a journey, as we've all had. But to me, what's more relevant is today, right now, where we are, because we have an opportunity to create a whole new story in each moment. But suffice it to say, many connections and miracles brought me here.
Thank you. And indeed, many miracles and connections as we followed the path of the people who led us to you,
Mhm.
and now you to the rest of the world. And so, what are some of the biggest lessons that you can share with us, in addition to take a nap and reset
Mhm.
and wake up to a new wonderful world? What other lessons have you learned in your journey of life up to this point in your life that you would love to share with people?
It has to do with it's not about me, and I am simply a node of consciousness here among many nodes of consciousness, a node of light, if you will, to where we're each playing a game and we have energy to share with one another. So what I've come to understand is that what we're really doing here is playing a game. It's not as serious as we tend to make it out to be when we're playing. So there's an opportunity to realize that, taking a step back, you are playing a game. It's the game of life, the game matrix, whatever you want to call it. Um, and then there's also the times when you're back in the game playing and not really realizing you're playing a game. So that has been such a powerful concept for me. And there are some tools and exercises around how to play the game in a way that helps you uh, get to higher levels. It helps you get to new dimensions, helps you get to new timelines and new realms, just for the purpose of fun, freedom, and conscious creation. And it's just a way to play fully conscious.
It feels like you're taking us back to our childhood when games came so natural to us. And now
Yeah.
as adults, you're
Yeah.
helping us recognize that we can get back into that childlike wonder and play games again.
Yes, exactly. And because we did play games as a kid, that came naturally. What we need to remember is, we don't need to, but it's fun to remember that when we play games, that is a microcosm of the macro game, which is this whole game of life. And that's why we played those games. We forget that when we get older and we take it more seriously. But remembering that we are playing a game can bring in so much more freedom and ease and fun and creation, your ability to rid yourself of heaviness, of things that have been holding you back, to overcome obstacles and see them for what they really are. And there's a fun process for doing this if you wanted to jump into that. And I can take you through 5 parts to doing that.
Yes, please. We are ready. Kelly and I are going to play full out with you, as well as every single woman that is listening to this session. Let's do it together.
Excellent. So before we begin, like I said, I do see this as a game. Some people will say that it is literally a game. Others see it as a metaphor. However you want to see it, it's very completely customized and unique to you. Whatever you say goes, essentially. It's like you define it. So you set the rules. So I call it the Matrix game. And then I also call myself a source player. And what that means is I'm fueled by source energy, God, consciousness, chi, whatever you want to call it. I am fueled by that source, and I am a source player. So I use that as my terminology because I think it's fun, and it reminds me of playing video games. So let's see. I call us a source player, and I see this as a game. Part 1 has to do with the pawns. When we come into this life, which I believe we choose to come into this life and play a game. It's an opportunity to play with different entities, if you will. So part 1 is about the pawns on the game board. When you're playing the game and you have forgotten that it's a game, you are faced with obstacles and challenges. And most of us source players, come into this life with a handful of challenges and obstacles that we struggle with or that defeat us repeatedly. And they're specific and unique to each of us because I believe we choose them just in order for our own facilitation of growth and getting to what we want to get to with our expanding consciousness. So you may have 4 or 5 things that you can think of. And with part 1, what I would encourage you to do now is just to take a moment and think back about what you've gone through in your life and what obstacles you've faced that have come up time and time again, repeatedly knocking you down and feeling insurmountable and maybe even all-encompassing, feeling giant and large, and that you'll never be able to get rid of these challenges, no matter how much inner work you do. So I'll just give you an example, and then I'll pause and let you think of your own. So for me, I was labeled shy as a child, and that was one of the things that was a challenge for me as I took on the label and said, okay, my mom says that I'm shy because when I hide behind her leg when I meet somebody new. And so she says, oh, don't worry, she's shy. And I'm 3 years old. So I go, okay, I'm shy. So that means from now on, I can't talk. I can't express myself. I'm in my own head, I'm in my own world, and I'm shy. So that was the first one that I had. Then we moved around a lot. My family and I, we moved around a lot all over the country for my dad's jobs. Never really feeling like I belonged and was rooted somewhere. That was one of the things I would put into this list of obstacles that I was faced with. One of the moves brought me to the Midwest, Iowa, in a tiny little town surrounded by a cornfield. In middle school, moving from California, and I was in this new environment, completely different, and I was shy, and I had a lot of being the new kid. I kind of stuck out as a sore thumb, and I was really shy. So in that space, I attracted or not necessarily attracted because I was a child, but I set up the obstacle of being bullied severely by boys my same age. And getting home, I remember getting home from school and crying, getting off the bus and crying and just like, I don't want to do this anymore. This was from age 12 to 15, and I was severely bullied. So that was one of my obstacles. Later on, it was alcohol. It all ties in together too. Alcohol was there to help bring me some relief around pains from the past. Then, then it was a relationship. I'm a single mom now, and I feel very empowered in that. But the relationship I had with my children's dad was one of the obstacles, and I can say that because he won't be watching this. um, so those were the ones that I put out there, and so maybe that will help you to think about what are some things that you realize have come up time and time again to challenge you, um, and keep you from experiencing the most freedom for you. So just take a moment and pause and write them down and think about what came up for you. Okay, if you've had a chance to do that and think about what those are, let's some other ones that I'd encourage you to list as well for part 2 would be things that come standard with all source players: money, ego, and body, if they're not already on your list. So would you guys like to share some of yours that came up?
Sure, I'll share mine. So mine has consistently been, ever since I was a little child, growing up in lower middle class, is the fear of not having enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And the rollover effect to that is enough to do what?
Mm-hmm.
Yet what I recognize is that my fear of lack prevents me from knowing and realizing, what do I really want?
Interesting.
Never looked at it that way before, Claire.
Wow. Okay. Really cool. What about you, Kelly?
For me, I think that one of my obstacles has always been the self-love, self-care, and having my own back versus always caretaking for others. And I'm very service oriented, and I had issues with putting myself on the list and honoring my boundaries and even having boundaries to support myself in the life I want to live. So that was been kind of like my life theme running through is self-love, self-care, worthiness, and yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So if you could list that in or say that as like one or two words as an obstacle, how would you translate that?
As an obstacle, I'm not sure.
But that's okay if nothing comes up. But
so put it in a sentence or?
Well, because when we move on to the next part, it is going to be about really addressing this obstacle directly. So let's come back to that. The idea is that you think of these obstacles as, if we're playing a game, picture a chessboard and you're zoomed out. This is you as a source player just viewing the chessboard. You see all the pieces there. And as the zoomed out source player, you're playing the game, you're moving the pieces. But when you're playing the game unconsciously, or you're just playing a game, you are on that game board. You're one of those pieces. And these pawns, I call them pawns. So being labeled shy, that would be a pawn. Moving around as a kid, that's a pawn. All of the implications that come with each of these things, being bullied and having that ripple effect throughout your entire life, affecting you and keeping you down, those are the pawns. But when you're zoomed out as a source player playing that game, you can see those for what they really are. You can reduce the size of those from imagine yourself standing on that game board and it's this huge piece that's in front of you that you can't get around. But then when you zoom back out and see the game board, you can move that piece. You can choose to play with that piece if you want. And you can neutralize it at that point because you can see it for what it is, simply just a pawn on your game board that you came to play with. And it's a different perspective. You can see that as a literal definition if you want. If you want to take the idea of the game literally, you can do that. Why not? You set the rules. It's giving yourself back that creatorship role and that responsibility. And from that responsibility, the empowerment to play full out. Okay. So once you've got your pawns and you see them for what they are, that gives you a certain level of freedom to, whenever they come up for you again, and you think, oh gosh, I'm feeling shy in this moment, or oh gosh, I'm caretaking other people and I shouldn't be doing that. Whoops, let's zoom out here and see that as for what it is. It's a pawn and I'm the source player. I get to choose and I can change my behavior in that moment because I set the rules. Same thing with money. And we're going to get to that, Theresa, for the next part. So part 2 is we are going to write a letter to one of those entities, whichever one you are feeling pulled to write to. And we're going to write to it as if it has its own voice and it's its own energetic entity. So it does have its own energy. So look at your list of things that you've put down that were the pawns in your life. And if you feel pulled to have a conversation with one of them or write a letter to one of them, what you're going to want to do is get out a notebook and you're going to think of this energetic entity. For instance, unworthiness. Maybe that's the word. Unworthiness or money. And you're going to say, dear unworthiness. And you're going to start flowing with the things that you never said directly to this entity. There's such a power in communicating directly with an entity that you've always just sort of played with unconsciously and never spoken to, never really opened the lines of communication. So then you're going to take out your notebook and say, "Dear unworthiness," or "Dear money," and you're going to say all the things that have come into your life and have affected you because of this entity and have sabotaged you, kept you down. So however long that takes, for me, what I did was I wrote a letter to money, and I wrote, that I'm sorry, money, for simply using you and not communicating directly with you, and for making up a bunch of stuff about money, which is very common in this reality, which is a game. So why don't we take a moment to pause and choose one entity that you feel called to write to, and just start flowing with whatever you feel called to say to that entity. And then we'll come back to the next part of this. All right. If you've had a chance to write your letter to that entity, we're going to move right into the next part. Then we'll share. The next part is actually allowing that entity to write you back. So in the same breath, while you're still feeling that flow from having written to that energy, just get quiet, close your eyes, feel into that energy, and wait for something to start flowing with actual words that you are able to write down on paper after your letter back to yourself from this entity. Because you were called to this entity to share about it for a reason, it has something to tell you, it has something to say to you. So go ahead, tap into this energy, start writing whatever you feel flowing out, and know that at first it might feel like it's just you writing, but that is you tapping into this energy. And after a while, you might actually feel a different personality coming through, a different energy. So just go ahead and take some time to flow into the response from this energetic entity. And feel free to start writing. All right, if you're all done with that, and I hope you take as long as you need, then let's talk about what was shared. And before we go into that, the example that came through for me was, or the I should say the examples that I can share. I wrote to two different entities at two different occasions. The first one that I wrote to was to money. And as an energetic entity, I got back a 10-page response, handwritten, with completely new awarenesses that I never would have considered, and how powerful that was. And I was just amazed at how that guidance came through to write to this entity. And she just was very adamant. I say she because it was a she energy for me anyways. She was very adamant about writing back to me. So I just felt like I have to keep writing. The next one for me was alcohol, because I was really struggling with it. This past year, 2020, had so much come up for everybody. And it's been so bizarre. For me, it's really crystallized how this reality is so illusory at times, and it's more of it's unreal in so many ways, so that it is a game. That's what's come up for me. But at the beginning, I had experienced some struggles, and when I had thought I had gotten rid of alcohol as one of my pawns, but it came back because of the events that took place in my life, having to do with my kids and different things like that. So I wrote a letter to alcohol and just asked for what was the purpose of it being here in my life once again. And I got back 3 sentences. So it was very different, speaking into the nature of these energetic entities having their own personality, almost their own energy, each with their own unique messages that are meant for you as a way to free you from them and see them as here to facilitate your game and not wreck your life. So with that said, let's share. Will you share a little bit about what came up for you with your letters?
Can I go first?
Sure.
First, I want to just say thank you so much, Claire. I've learned something already about looking at them as pawns versus those maybe shameful things you want to hide from, or you want to kind of push them down. You don't want to give them power or acknowledgement. Mm-hmm. And when you give them a stage for their word, it's transforming, because you can have a dialogue. And I have chills just because it's such a powerful thing. So thank you. So I moved mine into ego, because for me, everything that is lack or fear is ego based. So anything that is not in harmony with my soul and my heart is of ego. So that was a good umbrella for me to use. So
excellent.
I wrote the ego, a Dear John letter, sort of a farewell. It just came out that way. Dear John, ego, you have always been the voice in my head, saying and naysaying and trying to keep the love out of my life. When I was little, I felt I needed you for protection. I would turn to you for help, in which there was none. I see you now for what you really are, and that is nothing. I now choose love instead of you. I release you and lay you down, and I shall go free. Thank you for the contrast, and goodbye.
Beautiful.
So that was the first section.
And what did
really
you have to say to you? Good.
Yeah, I have like a smile. Like it just felt empowering. It feels good. Okay, so it said back. It doesn't want to go. No. Yeah. Dear Kelly, I've been with you for many lifetimes to show you the contrast between love and fear. Every time the choice was yours to choose. I like to be kept alive by making myself needed. and powerful in your life. When you are in the flow of good / love / higher vibration, I can't live. I feel our relationship changing and coming to an end. I try hard to fight for domination over you. Unfortunately, love always wins. And even this, I know.
Mhm. Wow. That's great. Okay. There's freedom in that. It feels really good.
Yeah.
How about you, Theresa? What your letter?
So my letter was to Money. Dear Money, I'm sorry for not spreading you out to the world and not setting you free to do your work. I hold on to you so tightly that oftentimes you can't even breathe, as if I am suffocating you. And in doing so, I am suffocating my sense of adventure and limiting the amount of fun I allow myself to have. I want to set you free to go out and multiply, and need your assurance that you will come back to me over and over again, tenfold or more. And then back from Money. Hopefully I can read my writing. I just writing so fast. There is no need to say sorry. You are only doing what you were trained to believe about me. Now that you are a different person at a different age than when you were originally taught, you can learn new ways of thinking about me, but more importantly, enjoying me. You have all that you need and want. You always have, and you always will. So dream big, and allow me to assist you in recognizing that dream that brings back that sense of excitement and fun. It's time to play and just begin to see what unfolds.
Woo!
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow. Sorry. I know this woman very well. Wow.
That definitely is along the same lines as what I received as well. It's like, no, you don't. Yeah, this entity isn't here to defeat you. It's here to help you play and facilitate the game.
Yes.
So that was really powerful. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean about not reading your writing, because once it's flowing, it's like just kind of scribbles. So the point is just to get it out there, and even just from writing it down, even if you can't read it, it's done the work that it needed to do, because you heard that message and it came through you. And now that the lines of communication are open, like you said, Kelly, you're having a dialogue with this entity. You can talk to it at any time, and you can see it that it's there on the game board for you, or not. Like you said goodbye to it, but you can. It just feels really good to have the communication and the ability to see it for what it is, and not as something that will continually have power over you. So that brings us to part 3 of the exercise. And it's about having each of us, this is my own spin on being a source player, each of us, when we wake up each new day, has a full battery, and it's a new game. We're in a game, but each day it's a new game. Because you can't really know that your memories actually are true, accurate, or really happen. They're just there when you wake up. And if you chose to, you could shut off all of that and just be here now without an identity. So each morning when you wake up, your battery is full. And what happens throughout the day is you come into contact and interact with things that will fuel your battery or deplete your battery. And a lot of it has to do with ego and thinking and thoughts that aren't even your own. But I have a whole list of what those are. I have the pluses to the battery, and they will be things like movement, love, water, emotions, high vibrations, different places. I have a whole list of those. Then I will also have a whole list of the negatives, the things that will zap your energy from your battery, which are things like alcohol, consumption without creation, thoughts, acid, porn, certain types of music, pharmaceuticals. And then you also have neutral tools for how to use your energy throughout the day, such as moderation, discernment, neutrality, crystals, cannabis, money. Money is neutral and it can be used for your gameplay. That will be provided as a PDF for you to review and just keep as a tool if you want to refer back to it. But just keeping that in mind, that when you wake up, your battery is full. And if you want to keep creating at a high level and manifesting and playing full out and having that freedom, do the things that give you energy and don't do the things that take your energy. And if you do the things that take your energy, you can offset those by doing the things that give you energy. And sometimes you can end up with a surplus of energy, where that is a whole other level that allows you to do really amazing things. I won't have time to go into that, but many of us end the day depleted from our energy source. But the great news is it's a game. The next day, you have a full battery again, and you can have fun. I'll include that PDF in the materials that you provide. That was part 3. Part 4 is really just an awareness. Part 4 is that as a source player playing this game of reality, this matrix game, you have a higher self that is assisting you always, where you as the player, you get to decide, you get to choose, you have free will that comes with this game. And you have a support that is there for you if you need it, that you can tap into. Some call it a higher self. And I see it kind of like if you were playing a video game, you're playing Mario World, the higher self is you, and Mario is the source player, the unconscious player that's on the game board that we actually are. So we're the source player / avatar, and our higher self is the one with the game controller sitting in the beanbag chair playing our game. And that analogy or reality could take on many different forms and shapes. But suffice it to say, if you're aware that you've got this support person always there, you could even see it as a guardian angel or multiple guardian angels. I think a lot of people connect with guides and guardian angels, but this is the higher you, the higher self. You can always tap into that for support for your gameplay. Part 5 is the affirmations. I find it very useful when you're playing the game to stay aware, so that when you wake up in the morning with a full battery, if you could set a reminder in your phone to go off and pop up when you wake up or prior to waking up, that just helps you say, I'm in this game, I'm a source player playing a game. Use it, create it in your own words, write it in your own words, and you can have that pop up throughout the day from your phone. I think that's the easiest way to do it. However, it's easiest for you to catch these reminders throughout the day. Program them into your phone. In fact, as an exercise, we could pause and put a reminder in right now. I mean, if you have a smartphone like most people do, you can put these in. I have an iPhone, set these reminders, and they'll pop up, and it just brings you back into awareness so you can feel that freedom of being an awake source player. So if you want, let's pause and add a reminder right now for your wake up affirmation. And I can share mine, and it evolves daily because we evolve daily, and the game continues to expand and evolve every day. So the idea is to never stay stuck. So let's see. We'll go ahead and you guys can go ahead and write your affirmation and then share what you came up with when we come back. Okay, whenever you're ready, if you want to share what you put down for your affirmation and what time, you can, it doesn't, you don't have to share that, but just when you think it would be most valuable.
No, sure.
Go
Okay.
for it.
I set it for 2 different times in the day. So I usually get pretty early, so 6 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Okay, great.
Sometimes in the afternoon, my energy might, in the middle of work or whatever. So today I'm filled with joy, energy, and love. I remember to be still, and shine my light bright.
Beautiful. How about you, Theresa?
So mine is every morning at 8 o'clock. So I usually do quiet time between 7 and 9 is just my time. So right in the middle of that, I have it going off saying, today is a new day of fun and adventure. Spend, the analogy to money, spend every minute in wonder.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, those are wonderful. And for me, I just want to say that, of course, this will resonate with people or it won't, and that every source player is unique and has vibes with different things. And for me, I really vibe with the idea of playing a game and being a source player. And so mine is, when I wake up, I am a source player playing a game in the mind world. Don't take it so seriously. I write my script. I'm awake. This is the best day. I feel good, in love, at home, powerful. Every experience has a positive result. I affect energy. I am pure source energy. Sinks and sparks are everywhere as constant reminders and boosts. Time does not exist. It's always now. It's all within to be imagined. I am vibrantly youthful, sexy, and alive. I am deeper and deeper truths, expansive bliss, constant expansion. I see highest potential. I seize life. It goes on a little bit more, but I'll leave it at that so you get kind of the vibe and the idea. And I realize this is not for everybody, and that's okay. I think there's power in understanding that we're called to certain energies and feelings. And at this point in the workshop or play shop, maybe, I would invite people to, if they would like to connect with me, to join my Telegram group, and that will be listed in the materials. And it's not for everybody, so I would want to make sure that this really resonated with you. And I suppose if you're reaching out, going to the Telegram group, you do resonate with the verbiage of being a source player, because that's really how it's laid out. So, all right, that brings us to the end of the whole play shop. And yeah, that was it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'll just pause there and see what you have to say.
Well, thank you, number one,
Thank you.
for giving us the experience and then giving us a tool that we can continue to use over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say to everyone who's participating in this session to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Stop the recording. Take as much time as you need, whether you're getting 3 sentences or 10 pages, and really full out, do the exercise. Let it really expand to whatever dimension you need it to expand to. And I would also say that it doesn't matter what you call it. There are things that have stopped us along the way, these obstacles. And until we have a plan to overcome them, they will win the game every time until we have a plan to overcome them. And I believe that is what you just taught us all. And I encourage every woman in the world to embrace that and speak your piece, find your voice on paper, and just be with the exercise.
Yes.
One of the main, yes. One of the main takeaways I got with this whole exercise is, where do we give our power away? We give it up to these, as you called, entities that end up running the show, and we're kind of a spectator, and we're not almost in the game sometimes. So that reminder that it's just a switch you need to make, to a shift in perception and take the reins back, and be the source player.
Yes.
Yeah.
So true.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We always think that we know things, and there's always more to learn. There's always more to learn, a different shift in perspective that goes like mind-blowing. This is really powerful for me, and I will do it with every aspect. All my little pieces on the chessboard. There's a few that are living in here.
Yeah.
So Claire, I have a question that might be on the minds of our listeners. And how do we know that we can trust the results of this exercise and actually go with it more than just the couple of minutes that we're spending in it, but ongoing?
Really great question. And the answer for me, you will each have your own answer, but the answer for me of how I knew I could trust it is because of the results that I received. For instance, after I wrote to alcohol, this was after I had gone back to it, starting in March and April of 2020, gone back to it where I was buying a bottle of vodka every week and finishing that, and realizing, no, I thought I had defeated this. I thought this obstacle was out of the way. Why is this coming back? And I remembered that I had written to money and how that had changed me and changed my life. I thought alcohol was no longer on my game board, or that it was no longer going to come back up because I had given it up for a couple years. It came back. So I wrote a letter to alcohol, and the response that I got back, just in 3 sentences, I didn't need to have a drink anymore after that at all, whatsoever. It neutralized the power completely. So it was a feeling of exuberance, and like I really can win at this game. It doesn't have to keep knocking me down. Alcohol is just an entity. And I'm not going to share those 3 sentences because we'll each have our own response from the entity, and I don't want my response to color someone else's response. And because if you're struggling with alcohol, it's a brutal thing, as anybody watching this knows, and destroys lives. So my answer to that is what do you have to lose by writing a letter to this and hearing its response with an open mind and just seeing what happens, seeing what you can gain from it?
Yeah, if any other thing that we tried hasn't worked, what if this one does?
Exactly.
And every single woman has the right to choice, like you said earlier, it's free will.
Mhm.
And we can choose to participate or we could choose not to participate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Claire, thank you so much for walking us through this, allowing us to be vulnerable in these moments in this play shop, to really take a look at ourselves. And as today is called Tips and Tools for Transformation, these are definitely tips and tools for the start of transformation. And we are so grateful to you for allowing us the opportunity to tap on your inner wisdom and your experience to make a potential change in the rest of our lives. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Claire. And I know the right people need to hear this, that are directly going to be so affected by your work. And we will show them and tell them how to get in touch with you to continue this amazing work that you do. And I thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you both. Thank you for the opportunity to share this and just connect with you and with the other women in this network. I'm just here to serve. So that's it.
And that is the epitome of the humility that we saw in you when we very first met with you. So thank you.
Thank you
so
so
much
much
for being you.